All right, so we're diving deep into personal branding today. And looks like we've got a ton of material from Chris Thompson's YouTube channel. I mean, this guy's got a lot to say about standing out,
Yeah.
especially in the world of real estate.
Yeah, Chris Thompson, he's quite a character. I mean, he's not your average real estate guru, you know?
Definitely not. He's like a real estate Swiss Army knife,
Right.
realtor, contractor, investor, lender. You name it, he does it.
And the interesting thing is, he really walks the walk when it comes to branding. I mean, his own branding journey is like a case study in how to evolve and adapt as your business grows.
Oh, absolutely. You can see it in the way his logos have changed over time.
Mm-hmm.
He started out working under his father's brand. Then they kind of blended their names together.
Right. And then he went solo with that bold statement, 29, your home sold in 29 days guaranteed.
Wow.
Talk about a promise.
Yeah, that's not messing around. He's putting it all out there. And then he expanded the brand to cover both traditional and creative real estate services.
It's like he's constantly evolving, right? Adding new layers to his brand as he takes on new ventures, but still maintaining a core visual identity.
Exactly. And then he created a separate, even bolder logo for his investment ventures. The Dominators.
The Dominators. I mean, that's a powerful image right there, you know? He's not afraid to be bold and make a statement.
Definitely not. And it's all very intentional. He even says branding isn't just your product or service, it's the emotion you're selling. So it's everything. Your company name, logo, visuals, even your tone of voice.
It's about creating an experience, right? Like when you think of Apple, you think of sleek design, innovation. When you think of Patagonia, you think of adventure and sustainability. It's about so much more than just a logo on a product.
And Chris really gets that. He's built this whole world around his brand. And you know what really sticks with me? That signature intro of his, "Good morning, how you doing? I'm Chris Thompson." I mean, the guy uses it on every single video.
Yeah, it's like his own personal jingle, right? Creates instant recognition. You hear that voice and you know exactly who it is.
And that consistency is key. He's all about showing up every day, posting those videos, rain or shine. He really believes in the power of getting those eyes on his content.
Well, it's all about building that relationship with your audience, right? Like showing up for them consistently builds trust and familiarity.
And he puts in the work, too. I mean, he said he spends like 3 hours crafting each of those short videos.
Yeah.
That's dedication.
And that's what it takes. You know, content marketing is a grind,
Yeah.
but the payoff can be huge if you're willing to put in the effort.
And he doesn't take himself too seriously either.
Yeah.
I mean, he's always rocking those fishing shirts, shorts, flip-flops. The whole look is very him.
It's authentic.
Right.
Right. Like he's not trying to be someone he's not.
Yeah.
And people can spot a fake a mile away.
Oh, totally. And he's not afraid to make fun of himself either. He calls himself a squirrel brain sometimes because of typos.
I love that. It's so relatable, right? It makes you feel like you could just grab a beer with the guy.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You know what else is interesting? This concept he talks about called the rule of threes in storytelling.
Oh, yeah. The classic setup, confrontation, resolution structure.
Exactly. He says it's all about understanding the other person's needs and positioning yourself as the solution. Finding those pain points, those bunnies, as he calls them.
And that's where it all comes back to emotion, right? You're not just selling a house or a service. You're selling peace of mind, a solution to a problem.
And he uses examples from major brands like Nike, McDonald's, Coca-Cola, Dove. They're not just selling products. They're selling ideas, feelings, aspirations.
It's brilliant. They've tapped into something deeper.
Yeah.
They're not just selling a sugary drink or a pair of shoes. They're selling a feeling, an experience.
Okay, so we're talking emotions, promises, values.
Yeah.
This is getting deep, but it's all connected, right?
Yeah.
To building a strong brand. And Chris has got some very specific strategies for doing just that.
Let's hear it. What are his top tips?
Okay, so let's get into the nitty-gritty. Here are Chris's top 4 branding tips. Straight from the YouTube video, develop a strong logo. Craft a memorable 3-word slogan. Embrace social media and post consistently. And most importantly, be yourself. Let your personality shine through.
It sounds simple, right? But it's harder than it looks. I mean, a lot of people get caught up in trying to be someone they're not, trying to fit into some kind of mold.
And you can totally tell when someone's not being genuine.
Right.
It's like you can smell it a mile away.
Exactly. Authenticity is key. You got to be true to yourself. And Chris really embodies that. He's not afraid to show his quirks and imperfections.
And speaking of putting yourself out there, the guy's a social media machine. I mean, he's active on 7 different platforms.
7? That's a lot. How does he even manage all that?
Right. It's mind-boggling. And he was saying how he used to use this app that could broadcast across multiple platforms simultaneously. But he stopped because it felt too impersonal.
Yeah, I get that. Each platform has its own vibe, right? You got to tailor your content to the specific audience.
And he really gets that. He talked about how he's more conversational on Instagram, shorter captions, more visuals. But on Facebook, he goes into more detail, shares longer form content.
It's like being multilingual, but for social media.
Totally. And I'm curious, how does he keep up with it all? I mean, he's got multiple businesses, a family. Got to be a lot to juggle.
Yeah, I'd love to get a peek into his daily routine. See how he structures his day to get everything done.
Me too. Because it's one thing to talk about consistency, but it's another thing to actually do it day in and day out.
And you know what's interesting? He said he's considering outsourcing some of the video creation down the line.
Really? I wonder how he feels about that.
Yeah.
I mean, it's his brand, his voice.
Yeah.
It's got to be tough to let go of that control.
Yeah, but sometimes you have to delegate, right? To free up your time and energy to focus on the bigger picture.
And it's not like he just woke up one day and was a social media master. He talked about how he had to overcome his fear of putting himself out there.
Oh, yeah. He said his first videos were horrible.
But he kept at it.
Right.
He didn't let the fear stop him.
And that's the key. You got to be willing to suck at first, Embrace those awkward first drafts.
And get this. He said his blooper reels actually get more engagement than his regular videos.
Really? That's hilarious.
I know, right? It's like people love to see the behind-the-scenes stuff, the imperfections, the
Yeah, it
realness.
makes you more human, more relatable.
And Chris totally gets that. He even said those who don't laugh at themselves take life too seriously.
Words to live by for sure.
Okay, so we've talked about consistency, authenticity, overcoming fear. But what about the actual content? Like, what kind of stories is he telling?
He talks a lot about the power of storytelling and the emotional connection that brands create with their audience. Like, he uses the example of iconic brands like Nike and McDonald's, how they've managed to create these powerful associations in our minds through their consistent messaging, their compelling narratives, their clever use of emotion.
Like Nike's Just Do It slogan.
Right.
It's not just about selling shoes. It's about inspiring people to push their limits, to achieve their goals.
Exactly. It's about tapping into a deeper human desire. And Coca-Cola is another great example. They built their brand around happiness and sharing.
Right. Like drinking Coke is associated with good times, family, friends. It's brilliant.
They've managed to associate their product with something that everyone desires. Happiness, connection, And they do it consistently across all platforms through their advertising, their packaging, their social media presence, everything.
It's like they've created this whole world around their brand. And Chris has done the same thing, right? With his signature intro, his relatable personality, his focus on helping people find the right solutions.
Yeah, he's not just selling real estate. He's selling a vision, a way of life.
Okay, so we've talked about the what of branding, the logos, the slogans, the consistency, the authenticity. But what about the how? Like, how does Chris actually put all of this into practice?
Well, that's where his rule of threes and find the bunnies philosophies come in.
Let's break those down a bit further.
Sure.
So the rule of threes is basically a classic storytelling structure. Setup, confrontation, resolution.
Exactly. And he uses this structure not just in his videos, but in his overall approach to branding. He sets up a problem, confronts it head on, and then offers a solution.
And he ties this into the concept of finding the bunnies, which in the real estate world means identifying and solving a seller's challenges.
It's about going beyond the surface level needs and really understanding those underlying motivations and anxieties that drive people's decisions. It's about empathy, problem solving, building trust.
So it's like he's saying, tell me your problems, tell me your fears, tell me what keeps you up at night, and then let me help you find the solution.
Exactly. And that's what makes him such an effective brand. He's not just selling a product or service. He's offering a lifeline, a sense of security and hope.
So it's like he's not just closing deals, he's building relationships,
Exactly. And what's interesting? This Find the Bunnies approach can be applied to so many different areas of life, not just real estate.
Oh, I totally agree. It's about understanding people's needs, their fears, their motivations, and finding a way to address those. Like any successful business or brand, they've figured out how to identify those bunnies and offer a solution.
It makes you wonder, though, did Chris always have this mindset? Or did it develop over time?
Right. Like, was he always this in tune with his audience? Or did he have to learn it the hard way?
It'd be fascinating to hear about his early days in real estate. what challenges he faced, what mistakes he made.
Yeah, because sometimes those early missteps are what really shape us, right? Like
Yeah,
you learn from your mistakes and you become a better entrepreneur because of it.
absolutely. And Chris definitely seems like someone who embraces challenges and learns from his experiences. Remember how he talked about those early videos being horrible?
He didn't let that stop him, though. He kept going, kept experimenting, kept refining his approach.
And now he's sharing those lessons with others, inspiring them to find their own bunnies and build their own successful brands.
Okay, so we've talked a lot about his overall philosophy, but I'm curious to hear more about the specifics of his social media strategy. Like he mentioned posting on 7 different platforms. That's insane.
I know. How does he even manage all that? Does he have a team helping him? What tools does he use?
Right, because it's one thing to say post consistently, but it's another thing entirely to actually do it, especially when you're running multiple businesses and trying to have a life outside of work.
There's got to be some kind of secret sauce, right? Some system or strategy that he uses to stay organized and productive.
And he mentioned tailoring his content for each platform. So it's not just about repurposing the same thing over and over again.
Yeah, he was saying how he's more conversational on Instagram. Shorter captions, more visuals. But on Facebook, he goes into more detail, shares longer form content.
So it's like he's speaking the language of each platform, right?
Mm-hmm.
Understanding the nuances and adapting his approach accordingly.
It's brilliant, and it makes you realize how important it is to be adaptable and willing to experiment. You can't just find one formula and stick to it. You got to be constantly evolving and refining your approach as the social media landscape changes.
And speaking of evolving, he mentioned wanting to create longer form content for YouTube and Rumble.
Oh, yeah, I think that'd be a great move for him. He
Yeah.
could really delve deeper into topics, share more of his expertise.
He's such a natural storyteller, too. I can totally see him captivating an audience with his real-life experiences and insights.
It'd be like a masterclass in real estate and entrepreneurship, delivered with his signature blend of humor and wisdom.
All right, so I think we've covered a lot of ground here today. We've learned about consistency, authenticity storytelling, finding your bunnies, and so much more.
It's been a whirlwind, but I think the biggest takeaway is that personal branding is a journey, not a destination.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's about constantly evolving, learning, adapting, and finding ways to connect with your audience on a deeper level.
And having fun along the way. Because, let's face it, if you're not enjoying the process, it's going to show.
Couldn't agree more. Well, folks, that's a wrap for this deep dive into the world of Chris Thompson and personal branding. Thanks for joining us.
And remember, be yourself, find your bunnies, and don't be afraid to put yourself out there. You never know who you might inspire.